He didn't want his wife beside him at the event. The millionaire ended up regretting it. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The ballroom is glowing with crystal light, polished marble floors reflecting chandeliers that cost more than most houses. Cameras line the entrance. Flash after flash cuts through the air like quiet lightning. This is one of the biggest charity events of the year in New York City, the kind of night where power shakes hands with power, and every smile is calculated. Standing near the edge of the crowd is the woman everyone assumes is lucky. She is dressed perfectly, not flashy, not loud, elegant in a way that disappears if you do not look closely. Her posture is straight, her hands folded calmly in front of her, her face composed. She has practiced this look. She has learned how to stand still without being seen. Because tonight, she is not here as a woman. She is here as a wife, on paper. A few feet ahead of her stands her husband, Ethan Hale, billionaire, tech founder, the man whose name is printed on the banners above the stage and whispered with admiration by investors holding champagne glasses. He looks exactly like the world expects him to look, tall, confident, untouchable. Every movement precise, every step forward owned. They have been married for 6 months. 6 months of sharing a house that feels like a hotel. 6 months of conversations that never last more than a minute. 6 months of silence, filled with rules. No feelings, no questions, no public closeness unless required. That was the deal. The cameras begin to gather closer. A photographer waves Ethan forward, calling his name. This is the moment meant for the headlines. The photo that will appear on business sites by morning. Ethan takes one step toward the marked spot on the floor. Then he stops. He does not turn fully. He does not raise his voice. He simply leans back slightly, just enough for his words to reach her and no one else. Stay back. She blinks, unsure she heard him correctly. He lowers his voice even more. I do not want you beside me. Not tonight. Not in the photos. The words land softly, but they hit harder than a shout. For a second, the noise of the room disappears. No music, no voices, just the hum of blood rushing in her ears. She looks at his reflection in the polished floor, waiting for him to look back, waiting for some sign that this is a misunderstanding. He does not look at her. He adjusts his jacket and steps forward into the light, alone. The cameras flash. She remains where she is, suddenly too aware of her own breath, her own heartbeat, the space she takes up, or does not take up. People glance past her, through her. No one asks why the billionaire's wife is not standing at his side, because no one expects her to be. She swallows, lifts her chin, and takes one small step back, retreating into the shadows near the column. She tells herself this is what she agreed to. This is what she signed for. This is not supposed to hurt. But it does, because being invisible hurts more than being hated. As applause fills the room and Ethan smiles for the cameras, she makes a decision he does not see. She turns away. And quietly, without a scene, without a single person stopping her, the woman he pushed out of the frame walks out of the ballroom. Ethan Hale does not notice. Not yet. The night she walks out of the ballroom, the city feels colder than it should. The doors close behind her, muting the music, the applause, the laughter that was never meant for her anyway. She pauses on the steps for just a moment, breathing in the sharp night air, reminding herself to stay steady. No tears. Not here. Not now. Because this was never supposed to be about feelings. Long before the cameras, long before the lights, long before she became the invisible wife of a billionaire, her life was already unraveling. 6 months earlier, she had been standing in a hospital hallway that smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee, staring at a number she could not afford. The bill was printed in black ink, calm and final. Her mother needed surgery, not optional, not something that could wait, the kind of surgery that doctors talk about softly, with careful eyes. She had worked 2 jobs then, long hours, no days off. Still, the numbers never added up. Rent, insurance, medication. Every dollar already belonged to someone else. That was when Ethan Hale's lawyer called. She almost hung up, convinced it was a mistake. Billionaires did not call women like her. They did not need to, but it was not a mistake. The meeting happened in a quiet conference room, high above the city. Glass walls, steel table, no warmth. Ethan sat across from her, hands folded, expression unreadable. He did not waste time. He needed a wife, not for love, not for companionship, but for stability, for appearances, for a clause buried deep inside a corporate agreement that required a married executive at the helm. She remembered how calm he sounded, as if he were discussing weather or traffic. The offer was simple: marriage. 1 year, strict conditions. In return, every medical bill would be paid. Her mother would get the best care. No debt, no questions. She asked what the catch was. He slid a single sheet of paper across the table. No feelings, no expectations, no public affection unless required, no interference in each other's private lives. This is a contract, he had said, nothing more. She had read every line twice. Her hands had shaken when she picked up the pen, not because she wanted him, not because she dreamed of this life, but because she was running out of choices. She signed. From that moment on, her life split in two. On paper, she became Mrs. Ethan Hale. In reality, she became a role. She moved into a house that echoed when she walked through it. Rooms too large, furniture chosen by someone else, staff who were polite, distant, professional. She learned quickly where she was expected to be and where she was not. Ethan was never cruel. That would have been easier. He was precise, distant, always controlled. They spoke about schedules, not days, about events, not feelings. When they stood together in public, it was always for a purpose: a handshake, a brief appearance, a carefully timed smile. And when the purpose ended, so did her presence. At night, she lay awake in a guest room that was technically hers, listening to the quiet hum of a house powered by money and silence. She reminded herself why she was there: her mother recovering, the bills paid, the clock counting down. 1 year. That was all. She told herself she could endure anything for 1 year. But standing alone outside the ballroom, replaying his words in her head, she realizes something has changed. Being invisible in private is one thing. Being erased in public is another. She looks back once, at the tall glass doors glowing with light and power, and finally understands the truth she has been avoiding. This marriage may have been fake, but the damage is starting to feel very real. The morning after the gala, the house is quiet in a way that feels intentional. Sunlight filters through floor-to-ceiling windows, stretching across polished wood floors that reflect a life she never truly touched. The staff moves quietly, efficiently, as if nothing out of the ordinary happened the night before, as if a wife did not walk out of a ballroom and out of a photograph that would be seen by millions. She sits at the edge of the bed, fully dressed, hands resting in her lap. Sleep never came. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard his voice again. Calm, low, final. Stay back. She tells herself to breathe. This is not new. This is the agreement. 6 months ago, Ethan Hale made one thing very clear. Emotions complicate contracts, and he does not allow complications. Later that morning, she is summoned to his study. The room is immaculate. Clean lines, neutral colors, everything carefully chosen to avoid attachment. Ethan stands near the window, reviewing something on his tablet. He does not look up when she enters. The door closes behind her with a soft click. He gestures to the chair across from his desk without turning around. "We need to revisit the rules," he says. Not apologize, not explain. Revisit. She sits. He finally looks at her then, his expression unreadable, as controlled as ever. There is no sign that last night meant anything to him beyond a minor inconvenience. "Last night was necessary," he continues. "The press attention was higher than expected. The optics required adjustments." Optics. She nods slowly, even though something inside her tightens. Ethan sets the tablet down and slides a thin folder across the desk. Inside is a printed addendum to their agreement. She recognizes the formatting instantly. Legal language, sharp edges disguised as neutral words. He speaks as she reads. "From now on, public appearances will be more limited. When required, positioning will be clearly defined. There will be no misunderstandings." She looks up at him. Positioning? He meets her gaze evenly. Where you stand, when you enter, when you exit. It is not personal. Of course it is not. He continues, voice calm, precise. There will be no unscheduled appearances, no independent interactions with media, no deviation from protocol. This protects both of us. She flips the page slowly, her fingers steady despite the weight settling in her chest. Every line reinforces the same message. She is not a partner. She is a variable to be controlled. Do you have any questions? He asks. She almost laughs at that. Almost. Instead, she asks the only question that matters. And if I do not agree? Ethan does not hesitate. Then we renegotiate the terms, including compensation. The implication is clear. The medical bills, the security, the protection she traded her name for. He is not threatening her. He does not need to. Power does that quietly. She closes the folder. I understand, she says. That is all he needs. Good, he replies, already turning back to his screen. I expect professionalism going forward. Professionalism. She stands, smoothing her dress, every movement controlled. She does not look back as she leaves the study. As the door closes behind her, something inside her settles. Not sadness, not anger, clarity. She has followed every rule. She has stayed silent. She has played her role perfectly. And still, she is being pushed further into the margins. This contract was designed to keep emotions out, but it was never designed to protect her dignity. That afternoon, she returns to her room and opens the drawer where she keeps the original agreement. She reads it again, line by line. She notices something she ignored before. The contract defines what she owes him. It says nothing about what she owes herself. She closes the folder and looks at her reflection in the mirror. For the first time since signing her name, she does not see a wife, or a role. She sees a woman who has reached the edge of her silence, and she knows now that if this marriage is going to remain a transaction, then she will stop paying the price alone. Days pass, then weeks, and the house settles back into its carefully managed rhythm. From the outside, everything looks seamless. She appears when scheduled. She leaves when instructed. Her calendar is filled with neatly labeled blocks of time that tell her where to be and how long to stay. Charity luncheons, board-adjacent dinners, brief appearances where her name is mentioned once, politely, then forgotten. She learns quickly. A stylist is assigned to her, chosen by someone from Ethan's office. The woman is efficient, friendly in a professional way, measuring her shoulders, adjusting hems, selecting colors that photograph well but never dominate a frame. Nothing too bright, nothing distracting, nothing that draws focus. At first, she thinks this is about fashion. Then she understands it is about control. She is taught how to walk half a step behind him, never beside him unless directed. How to pause before answering questions so he can speak first. How to smile without inviting conversation. How to place her hands so they look natural, but never expressive. At events, Ethan moves through rooms like he owns the air itself. People turn toward him instinctively. Conversations pause when he approaches. She follows at the approved distance, present but peripheral, invisible but useful. When introductions happen, they sound the same every time. Ethan Hale and his wife. No name, no story. She notices the pattern and says nothing. In the car rides home, silence fills the space between them. Ethan checks emails. She watches the city pass by through tinted windows, counting traffic lights, reminding herself that this is temporary. 1 year. That was the agreement. Still, there are moments that linger. Once, at a dinner with senior investors, a woman compliments the work Ethan's foundation has done with regional hospitals. Ethan nods, accepting the praise easily. No one mentions that the initiative was her suggestion, born from long nights in hospital waiting rooms before this life ever existed. Another time, an executive thanks Ethan for smoothing over a negotiation with a charity board. Ethan accepts again. He does not mention that she was the one who spent hours listening, mediating, translating tension into compromise. She tells herself it does not matter. Recognition was never part of the deal. But something subtle begins to shift. She stops shrinking. She still follows the rules, but she observes. She listens. She learns how rooms work, how power circulates, how decisions are shaped long before they are announced. She understands now that visibility is not the same as influence, and influence, quietly earned, lasts longer. Ethan notices none of this. To him, everything is working exactly as intended. The press coverage is clean. The board is satisfied. The image of stability is intact. The contract is being fulfilled. One evening, after a formal dinner, he pauses near the doorway of the house as she removes her coat. "You handled yourself well tonight," he says, not unkindly. It sounds like praise. It is not. She looks at him, waiting for more. That is all he offers. She nods once. "Thank you." He disappears into his study, already moving on to the next obligation. Later that night, alone in her room, she stands in front of the mirror again. She studies the woman looking back at her, composed, polished, controlled. She looks exactly like the role she was hired to play. And for the first time, she understands the danger of that. Because the more perfectly she performs, the easier it becomes for him to forget that she is a person at all. She reaches into her drawer and removes the simple ring she wears only in public. She turns it slowly between her fingers, feeling the weight of it. Not heavy, just enough to remind her of what it represents. This marriage has taught her how to disappear, but it has also taught her something else. If she can learn to vanish this completely, she can also choose when to stop. And when that moment comes, Ethan Hale will not be ready for what happens next. The next major event arrives faster than expected. It is a black tie fundraiser held at a historic museum overlooking the river, the kind of venue where legacy matters more than money, even though money pays for everything. The guest list is smaller, sharper, old power, quiet influence. This is not just about donations, it is about perception. Ethan is the guest of honor. From the moment they arrive, the atmosphere feels different. The press presence is heavier, the camera is more aggressive. Every angle matters. Every image will be studied. She feels it immediately. Inside the car, as it slows near the entrance, Ethan adjusts his cufflinks, eyes fixed ahead. "Tonight is sensitive," he says calmly. "Stay close until we enter, then step back." She nods. They step onto the carpet together, flashes exploding around them. For a brief moment, she stands at his side, shoulder nearly aligned with his. It feels almost normal. Almost. Then they reach the top of the steps. A photographer calls out Ethan's name, asking him to pause. Another gestures for a solo shot. A third requests a clean angle for the sponsors. Ethan hesitates only a fraction of a second. Then he takes a step forward. She stops. No words this time. No glance. No signal. He simply moves into the spotlight without her. She stands there, frozen in place, the distance between them suddenly unmistakable. The photographers adjust quickly, reframing the shot. The moment shifts, and she is no longer part of it. People notice. Not openly, not enough to comment, but enough for the air to change. A woman near the entrance gives her a curious look, then looks away. A donor couple whispers quietly. An assistant gestures subtly, guiding her toward the side wall, as if that had always been the plan. She walks there on her own. From the edge of the room, she watches Ethan greet board members, shake hands, smile easily. He looks confident, in control, exactly as he wants to be seen. And suddenly, something inside her goes still. This is not an accident. This is a choice. As the evening progresses, she becomes a shadow. She listens as conversations happen around her without including her. She watches as people speak about initiatives she helped shape, decisions she helped guide, as if she were not standing 5 feet away. No one introduces her. No one asks her name. She realizes then that this is the test, not of her patience, but of her worth. Later in the evening, the main presentation begins. The lights dim slightly. Guests gather near the stage. Ethan is invited forward to stand beside the host for photographs and closing remarks. There is a pause. The host glances around, then smiles politely. "And your wife?" he asks. The room grows quieter. Ethan answers smoothly, without hesitation. She prefers to stay out of the spotlight. The words are delivered lightly, almost kindly. They cut deeper than anything he has said before. She feels every eye drift briefly in her direction, not with judgment, with dismissal. Something breaks, not loudly, not visibly, but completely. She does not wait for the speech to end. She does not wait for the applause. She turns and walks toward the exit, her heels steady against the marble floor. No one stops her. Outside, the night air hits her face, sharp and clean. She exhales slowly, deeply, as if releasing something she has been holding for months. Inside, Ethan finishes his remarks to enthusiastic applause. He does not notice her absence. Not until later. Not until the car is ready. Not until the seat beside him is empty. And for the first time since this marriage began, the silence feels different. Because this time, it is not something he chose. It is something he lost. The car ride back is quiet. Too quiet. Ethan sits in the back seat, reviewing messages on his phone, responding to congratulations, confirming follow-up meetings. The evening has gone exactly as planned. The donors were pleased. The board members were impressed. The photos will look strong by morning. When the car stops in front of the house, he reaches for his coat, already thinking about the next day. Then he notices the empty seat beside him. He pauses. "Where is she?" he asks the driver casually, without looking up. The driver hesitates. "She left early, sir. She said she would arrange her own transportation." Ethan looks up then. Left early. It registers, but only partially. People leave events early all the time. It means nothing. He nods once and steps out of the car. Inside the house, the lights are dimmed as usual. Everything is in its place, perfect, orderly, predictable. He loosens his tie as he walks through the entryway. She is not there. No sound from the sitting room. No movement in the hallway. He checks his watch. It is later than usual, but not unreasonably so. He assumes she went straight to her room. He goes to his study. An hour passes, then 2. When he finally heads upstairs, something feels off. Not wrong, just unfamiliar. He knocks once on her door, more out of habit than concern. No answer. He opens it. The room is neat, but different. The bed is made too perfectly. The drawers are closed. The surface of the dresser is empty except for a single envelope placed carefully in the center. He picks it up. His name is written on the front. Inside is a short note. No emotion, no accusation, just facts. "I have gone to stay elsewhere for a few days. I need space. We will talk soon." No signature. Ethan reads it twice, then a third time. A few days. He exhales sharply and folds the note, placing it back where it was. This is inconvenient, he thinks. Poor timing. There are meetings scheduled, appearances planned. This was not discussed. She broke protocol. He tells himself this is temporary. She will return. She always follows the agreement. Still, as he turns to leave the room, his eyes catch something missing. Her ring. The simple band she always wears in public is not on the nightstand. Not in the jewelry tray. Not anywhere he can see. For the first time, a thin thread of unease pulls tight in his chest. Downstairs, the house feels larger than usual. The silence stretches, no longer neutral, no longer empty. He pours himself a drink and sits in the living room, staring at nothing in particular. He tells himself he is tired, that the night was long, that this reaction is irrational. But sleep does not come. The next morning he wakes early, too early. At breakfast, her chair remains untouched. The staff says nothing. They never do. He goes through his schedule, call after call, meeting after meeting. Everything runs smoothly, except for the small disruptions he did not expect. A foundation director calls, confused about a conversation that was supposed to happen. Ethan realizes she was the one who usually handled those details. A donor emails with a question about a hospital initiative. Ethan has to ask his assistant to look it up. Small things, annoying things. By the afternoon, the irritation grows sharper. He sends her a message. "We need to discuss your absence." No response. He sends another. "This is not professional." Still nothing. Hours pass. By evening, the irritation has shifted into something else, something he does not immediately recognize. The house is silent again. No footsteps. No quiet presence moving through rooms. No soft awareness of another person nearby. For the first time since the marriage began, the space feels wrong. Not because she is gone, but because he notices. And that realization unsettles him more than he is willing to admit. The third day without her presence is when things begin to unravel. Not dramatically, not all at once, quietly. Ethan is seated in a conference room at headquarters, glass walls overlooking the city, surrounded by senior executives and legal advisors. The agenda is routine, numbers, projections, approvals, the kind of meeting he has led hundreds of times without effort, until it is not. A board member raises a question about a partnership with a regional hospital network. Ethan answers confidently at first, outlining the framework. Then a follow-up question comes, a specific one, about community outreach terms. He pauses. The answer does not come. For the first time in years, the room waits for him. He clears his throat and defers the question to his assistant. The moment passes, but something shifts. He feels it, a subtle recalibration of attention. After the meeting, his assistant follows him into the hallway. "That partnership was finalized by your wife," she says carefully. "She handled the negotiations personally." Ethan stops walking. "She what?" The assistant hesitates, then continues. "She was involved in several foundation initiatives. Directly. She preferred not to be listed publicly, but many of the partners worked with her." Ethan dismisses her with a nod, but the words stay with him. That afternoon, he returns to his office and begins to look through files he never paid attention to before. Foundation reports, email threads, meeting notes. His name appears everywhere. Hers does not, but her influence is unmistakable. Ideas he once assumed came from advisors, compromises that prevented conflicts, connections that smoothed relationships he never had time to manage. He recognizes patterns now. She was not following him. She was supporting the structure beneath him. That evening, he attends a small donor dinner alone. It is meant to be informal, but the absence beside him is noticeable. One of the hosts asks politely if his wife could not attend. He gives the same answer as before. She is busy. The words sound hollow this time. Later that night, back at the house, he opens the drawer in his study where old contracts are kept. He pulls out their agreement, reading it again with fresh eyes. The clauses are clear, precise, brutal in their neutrality. Nothing in it forbids respect. Nothing requires erasure. He realizes then that everything he did was a choice. He told himself it was strategy, optics, efficiency. But strategy does not require cruelty. Optics do not demand silence. Efficiency does not excuse exclusion. He remembers the way she stood at events, always composed, always present, always one step behind. He remembers the way she never interrupted, never demanded credit, never asked for more than what was written. And he remembers the moment she walked out of the museum, not angry, not dramatic, done. The next morning, he receives a call from the hospital administrator overseeing the foundation's largest medical initiative. The man sounds concerned. "We have been trying to reach your wife," he says. "She usually approves the next phase personally. We have not heard back." Ethan closes his eyes briefly. "I will handle it," he replies. But when the call ends, he realizes he cannot. He does not know the details. He does not know the people. He does not know how to move forward without her. For the first time since the marriage began, he understands the imbalance clearly. He had the power, she had the substance, and he pushed her out of the frame. That evening, he drives alone through the city, past places they attended together in silence. He thinks about the note she left. Short, calm, controlled. "I need space." It was not a request, it was a boundary. He pulls over, gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. The image from the gala flashes in his mind. The moment he stepped forward and left her behind. At the time, it felt like nothing. Now, it feels like the beginning of losing something he never meant to risk. And for the first time, regret enters the equation, not as guilt, but as fear. Fear that the woman he treated as replaceable may have already decided that he is not worth returning to. Ethan does not wait another day. By morning, the fear has hardened into resolve. He cancels 2 meetings without explanation. His assistant looks surprised, but says nothing. By noon, he is already in the car, driving himself for the first time in months. No driver, no buffer. Just the road and the weight of what he has ignored for too long. He knows where she went, not because she told him, but because he finally paid attention. The address leads him to a modest building across the river. Quiet, understated, the kind of place no one would photograph. He parks and sits in the car for a long moment, hands resting on the steering wheel, rehearsing words he has never needed before. None of them sound right. Inside, the hallway smells faintly of coffee and cleaning soap. He finds the door and knocks once, then again. The door opens. She stands there, calm, composed, exactly as she always was. But something is different. Her shoulders are relaxed, her eyes steady. She is not bracing herself anymore. "You should not be here," she says gently. "I know," he replies. The silence stretches. He realizes he has never stood in front of her without an agenda before. No contract, no event, no cameras waiting outside. Just the truth. "May I come in?" he asks. She hesitates, then steps aside. The apartment is simple, clean, lived in. A life scaled to fit a person, not an image. Ethan takes it in quietly, understanding for the first time how foreign his world must have felt to her. He does not sit until she does. "I was wrong," he says. The words feel unfamiliar in his mouth. He does not soften them. He does not explain them away. "I told myself I was protecting the company, protecting the image, but what I was really doing was protecting myself." She listens without interrupting. "I treated you like a liability," he continues, "like something that needed to be managed instead of respected. I erased you publicly because it was easier than standing beside you." He looks at her directly. "I do not want to do that anymore." She studies him for a long moment, then speaks. "You did not just push me out of photographs," she says. "You pushed me out of my own life. You made me smaller so you could feel larger." He nods. "I know." Silence again. Then she stands. "You came here because things stopped working," she says quietly. "Because you realized I mattered to your world. But that is not enough." She turns to face him fully. "I will not come back to be hidden. I will not stand behind you, and I will not be introduced as an accessory." Her voice does not shake. "If I return, it will be because you are willing to lose control. Publicly." The words land hard. Ethan swallows. "What does that look like?" he asks. "It looks like you choosing me in front of everyone," she says, "even when it costs you something." He understands then. This is not about apology. It is about consequence. That evening, the opportunity comes sooner than expected. A last-minute press event is scheduled for the foundation. Cameras, board members, donors, everything he once prioritized over her. Ethan arrives early. When she enters, the room stills. Heads turn. Whispers ripple. He walks to her before anyone else can. Not ahead of her, beside her. He takes her hand. "This is my wife," he says clearly, his voice carrying without force, "and she will be standing with me tonight." The room holds its breath. She looks at him, searching his face. There is no calculation there now, only commitment. They step forward together. Cameras flash. For the first time, he does not move ahead. He adjusts his position so she is fully in frame. And in that moment, he understands what power actually costs and what it is worth paying. The photographs from that night appear everywhere by morning. Business outlets, charity pages, social feeds that once cropped her out now show them standing side by side, perfectly aligned. Not forced, not staged, balanced. People notice. They notice because Ethan Hale does something he has never done before. He does not correct the narrative. In interviews, when asked about the foundation's recent success, he does not speak alone. He turns toward her. He invites her into the conversation. He uses her name, fully, clearly. "This is my wife," he says. "She has been instrumental in everything we have built." The word instrumental lands differently than praise. It is acknowledgement. At home, the house feels different too, not quieter, more honest. She does not move back immediately, not fully. She keeps her space. She keeps her routine. And for the first time, Ethan does not rush her timeline. They talk, not about contracts, about boundaries, about what respect looks like when no one is watching. One evening, they sit across from each other at the dining table. No staff present, no agenda printed between them. Ethan places the original agreement on the table, sliding it toward her. "I want to end this version of us," he says. She studies the paper, then looks up. "And replace it with what?" she asks. "With choice," he replies. "Real choice. Not leverage, not obligation." She considers him carefully. The man in front of her is not the same one who whispered for her to stay back. He looks smaller now, not weaker, more human. "I am not coming back to be tolerated," she says. "I know," he answers. "I am coming back only if I am chosen. Every day, in public and in private." He nods. "That is fair." She reaches for the pen. She does not sign the old agreement. She folds it once, slowly, and sets it aside. Then she stands. "If this is going to work," she says, It will not be because you learned to stand beside me when it was convenient. It will be because you learned to stand behind me when I step forward. He absorbs that quietly. Weeks later, another event takes place, smaller, no cameras, no banners. A regional hospital opening funded by the foundation. This time, she speaks first. She addresses the room with calm confidence, explaining the mission, the impact, the people it will serve. Ethan stands a step behind her, listening. No one questions it. It looks natural. Afterward, as they walk out into the afternoon light, she stops near the entrance. She pulls out her phone. "One photo," she says. He smiles. Together. They stand side by side, equal in frame, equal in presence. She raises the phone and captures the image herself. That night, she places the ring back on her finger. Not because she is required to, because she chooses to. The marriage did not become real the moment he apologized. It became real the moment he changed. And the moment she decided that love, without dignity, is not love at all. In the end, the billionaire did regret pushing his wife out of the spotlight. But not because he almost lost her, because he finally learned what it meant to truly stand with her.